Stop being dramatic, it's just one day. My mom said after I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding. I booked a trip instead. Days later, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I didn't find out from her. Not even a text. It was my cousin Lindsay who let it slip at a family barbecue 3 months before the wedding. She said it so casually. Are you excited for Chloe's big day? While flipping a hot dog on the grill like she hadn't just sent a tremor through my chest. I blinked at her. What big day? She laughed, assuming I was being sarcastic. The wedding? I forced a smile, then excused myself to go check on the potato salad, which was really just code for go sit in my car for 10 minutes and pretend like the world didn't just shift sideways. My younger sister, Chloe, the golden child since birth, was getting married, and I hadn't even received a save the date. It shouldn't have surprised me. I'd been playing the role of the dependable, invisible older brother for most of my life. From the day she was born, Chloe was the sun we all revolved around. Dance recitals with front row seats, extravagant birthday parties with ponies and bouncy castles, even a semester abroad in Florence, fully paid for by the same parents who had told me, college just isn't in the budget, back when I was 17. Meanwhile, I worked full-time stocking shelves at 18 to help pay our electric bill. But this stung more than I expected. Not being invited to her wedding wasn't just an oversight. It was deliberate, cold, and humiliating in a way I couldn't quite put into words. I held it together for the rest of the barbecue, making small talk and smiling politely. But inside, I felt like I was standing behind a glass wall, watching a family I barely recognized move on without me. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone screen for 10 full minutes before calling my mom. She picked up on the third ring, voice chipper. Hey, honey. Hey, I said. Quick question, was there a reason I wasn't invited to Chloe's wedding? There was a pause. Then, the clink of a spoon against a mug. Oh. That? I echoed. Well, she said like she was discussing the weather. It's Chloe's special day. She wanted something small. Small? My voice cracked a little. You invited 40 cousins. I counted. Mom sighed. Look, don't be dramatic. It's just one day. Just one day. I don't know what I expected. An apology, maybe. At least some basic empathy. But all I got was that same dismissive tone she'd used 100 times before, the one that meant, stop making this about you. I was 32 years old, and I felt like a ghost at my own family's table. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at my ceiling in the dark for a long time. But something in me had changed. I was done. Done being the background character in my own life. Done being the dependable sibling who showed up, paid his part, and stayed quiet. If they wanted me gone, I'd show them what that really looked like. So I booked a trip. First class. Cliffside Villa. Greece. And that was just the beginning. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Not even my co-workers. I requested the time off, packed light, and disappeared from the group chat like a magician ducking out of a smoke cloud. 1 week before Chloe's wedding, I boarded a flight to Athens, then caught a connecting puddle jumper to a small island I could barely pronounce. And let me tell you, if you've never arrived in Greece at golden hour, you're missing out on a religious experience. My villa clung to the cliffside like it had grown out of the rock. Whitewashed walls, a blue-domed roof, a plunge pool that overlooked the Aegean. I didn't even take my shoes off. I just dropped my bag, grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, and walked straight onto the balcony like I'd been living there my whole life. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real peace. Not the kind you pretend to have while nodding through family dinners. Not the kind that comes from finally paying off your car. This was different. It was the kind that wraps itself around you in salty air and sunlight, and says, you don't owe anyone anything right now. I didn't post anything for the first 24 hours. Just soaked it in. But on the second day, I posted a photo. No caption. No tag. Just me on the deck at sunset, the sea behind me painted in strokes of lavender and gold. I held a glass of wine, smiled just slightly, and hit share. The reaction was immediate. 3 dots from my mom in the family chat, typing, then gone. Chloe viewed the story but didn't message me. My cousin Lindsay sent me a fire emoji. My aunt left a comment that said, "Living the dream." I didn't reply to any of it. Instead, I booked a sunset yacht cruise. By the 3rd day, I was eating freshly caught sea bass at a restaurant so good I nearly cried into the tzatziki. I posted that too. Just the plate and the view. Let them piece it together. I never once mentioned the wedding. Never said her name. Never threw shade. That would have been too easy. Too obvious. No, I wanted them to feel my absence. Not because I said anything, but because I said nothing. I knew what the wedding weekend looked like back home. The pastel dresses, the monogrammed napkins, the carefully staged photos that screamed perfect family. I imagined them posing, clinking glasses, pretending everything was exactly as it should be. And in every photo, there would be an empty space. No brother of the bride. No toast from the older sibling. Just a quiet gap where someone should have been. Me. Let them wonder. Let them whisper. I didn't care anymore. I was done waiting to be invited. This was my life now, and I was going to live it, even if I had to do it alone. And then, 3 days after the wedding, my phone started to ring. It started at 7:12 a.m. Greece time. My phone buzzed against the marble nightstand, dragging me out of sleep with that odd vibration that only ever spells something happened. I squinted at the screen. Mom. Missed call. Then another. Aunt Carol. 2 missed calls. Then a 3rd, 4th, 5th, Uncle Mark, Chloe's friend Rachel, Dad's new wife Donna, of all people. I sat up, heart doing this slow, tight squeeze in my chest. I hadn't spoken to most of these people in months, some years. And now they were blowing up my phone like I'd won the lottery or gotten arrested. My mind instantly searched for the worst-case scenario. Was someone hurt? I unlocked my phone. 23 missed calls. 7 voicemails. 4 text messages with nothing but variations of, "Call me now." The first text that explained anything came from my cousin Lindsay. "Holy crap, are you seeing this? It's all over TikTok." I frowned. What was all over TikTok? Then she sent a link. A 47-second video posted just hours earlier. The thumbnail was blurry, but it looked like an event hall. Confetti on the floor. A woman in white. I tapped play. The video opened in chaos. Screaming. People rushing toward the exits. A woman in a bridesmaid dress throwing a bouquet, not ceremonially, but at someone's face. Then, the camera panned to the bride, Chloe. She was sobbing. Screaming something unintelligible at another woman, one I recognized, but couldn't place until someone in the video yelled, "That's the maid of honor!" I paused. Rewound. Watched again. The maid of honor. Chloe's best friend, Sabrina. And then, the groom. Standing between them, hands up like a man trying to defuse a bomb, while his now wife and his other woman tore each other to verbal shreds in front of 150 horrified guests. The audio wasn't great, but I could still make out the words. "He told me he was in love with me, Chloe! You disgusting snake, you were supposed to be my friend!" And the final blow. "We were sleeping together the whole time you planned this wedding." I sat there, phone still in hand, stunned. My sister's wedding had ended not with dancing or sparklers or a limo, but with betrayal, screaming, and a bridesmaid brawl caught on video. A video now climbing into the tens of thousands of views. And everyone, in the family had started calling. Not to warn me. Not to apologize for what they'd done. But to beg me to come home. By noon, the calls had shifted from frantic to pitiful. My mother had left 6 voicemails by then, each more desperate than the last. The 3rd one stood out the most. She was crying, or at least trying to sound like it. "Daniel," she sniffled. "Please, your sister's a mess. We need you here. The whole family's in pieces. You don't understand what this has done to us." To us. Not to Chloe. Not to the bride whose wedding was detonated like a soap opera finale. Us. As if the family reputation was the real casualty here. I sat on a sun-warmed balcony, barefoot, sipping Greek coffee while the waves whispered far below. It was almost too cinematic. The contrast of her voice, hollow and cracking, pouring out of my phone while I watched sailboats drift across the horizon like they'd never heard of betrayal. Then came the text from my dad, of all people, the one who'd once told me to man up when I cried after getting rejected from college. Son, I know things got tense, but your sister's hurting. This is when family steps up. Family. That word had been weaponized so many times in my life I no longer believed in its shape. To them, it only existed when I could be useful. When someone needed a bill paid. When something broke and strong, reliable Daniel was around to quietly fix it. But now they were seeing what life looked like without me. And that silence at Chloe's wedding, the absence of her brother, the one who always showed up even when no one asked him to, that silence had finally made noise. I didn't respond right away. I let the day pass me by like a slow, golden dream. That evening, I posted another photo. Me. At the helm of a yacht. A wine glass in hand. Wind tousling my hair, the sky melting into hues of gold and blush behind me. No caption. No comment. Just me, happy, unreachable, free. By midnight I got a message from Chloe herself. Not a call. A message. I know I messed up. I should have invited you. I didn't think it would matter this much. Please. I need my brother right now. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it was touching, but because it was the first time in years she had said something that sounded real. Still, it wasn't enough. Not after a lifetime of being the afterthought. The second priority. Despair. They were all learning the same lesson now. When you ignore the one who holds everything together long enough, eventually, they stop. I didn't write back. Not to her. Not to any of them. And yet I read her message again the next morning. And the one after that. She had followed up with, "Please just come home. We'll talk. I just need you here." A few years ago, I probably would have booked a flight that same night. Bought flowers. Stepped into that house with open arms and a tight smile. The dependable son. The solid brother. The one who picked up the mess after everyone else dropped it. But that version of me, he didn't make it to Greece. I had spent years learning how to carry things quietly. Bills. Emotions. Apologies that never came. And now, here I was, on a shaded terrace overlooking the sea, realizing that maybe I didn't have to carry any of it anymore. They wanted me to come home. Not for closure. Not to reconnect. But to perform the same role they'd written for me the day Chloe was born. The brother who claps from the crowd. The brother who hands over his savings when tuition comes calling. The brother who's forgotten until he's needed. I spent that morning swimming under a sky so blue it looked painted. I met a couple from Madrid who thought I was a travel writer. I didn't correct them. We shared wine, stories, laughter. No one asked about my sister. No one cared that I'd skipped a wedding. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. That night, I sent one message. To my mom. Tell Chloe I hope she finds peace. But I'm not coming back right now. Maybe not for a while. Maybe not at all. I saw she read it. No reply. Just the kind of silence I'd grown up in. Only this time, it didn't sting. It felt like freedom. I raised a glass to the moonlit water and whispered something to myself, soft but solid. Let them feel it. The funny thing about silence is how quickly people try to fill it when they're not used to it. Back home, I was the one who kept the wheel turning. I checked in. I sent the birthday cards. I remembered the anniversaries no one else did. I paid attention, even when no one asked me to. And when I stopped, they didn't know what to do. The messages didn't stop. They just changed. Guilt gave way to flattery. We've always admired how grounded you are. Your sister says you've always been the strong one. This family needs your example right now. And yet, not one of them, not one, had actually said I'm sorry. Not for the years I was overlooked. Not for expecting so much while giving so little. not for choosing Chloe's comfort over my inclusion. And that told me everything I needed to know. I spent the rest of that week like someone who had finally slipped out of old skin. I walked ancient paths in Santorini. I stood on volcanic cliffs and watched the sea blink with stars. I ate olives and honey cheese on a balcony with strangers who became brief, beautiful friends. I didn't talk about my family. I didn't need to. When I looked around at the life I was building, quiet, beautiful, fully mine, I realized something simple and profound. I had never been this happy before. Not because I had escaped my family, but because I had finally stopped performing for them. A week after the wedding disaster, I started hearing the stories. Not from my family, but from people around them. Friends. Distant cousins. Even a former coworker of my mom's who apparently followed me on Instagram. They came in like little whispers on the breeze. Did you hear what happened at Chloe's wedding? I saw the video. Can't believe she didn't see it coming. She looked destroyed, man. Groom dipped before the cake was cut. And beneath it all was a quiet refrain, murmured with disbelief. Why wasn't her brother there? It spread. Turns out, when you've been the steady one long enough, your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. They'd built this narrative around Chloe's perfection for so long. Picture-perfect bride. Golden girl. And when it all collapsed, when the fairy tale shattered on the dance floor in front of everyone she'd ever tried to impress, I wasn't there to help her rewrite the ending. And people noticed. Not just because I was missing from the photos, but because, for the first time, my absence meant something. I didn't gloat. Didn't comment. Didn't so much as nod when people brought it up. Because I didn't need to. They were doing all the work for me. The very people who used to call me too quiet, too serious, always off doing his own thing. They were now saying, I get why he stayed away. It wasn't revenge. Not really. It was reality. Finally seen. It's strange how visibility works. For years I was always in the background. The one who took the photo, never the one in it. The one who stayed late to clean up while everyone else posted about how amazing the party was. The sibling whose birthday was remembered in a group text, if at all. And then, suddenly, people couldn't stop talking about me. Not because I'd said anything, but because I hadn't. Back home, the fallout from the wedding was still unraveling. The video had gone viral in some corners of the internet, nothing massive, but enough that people in Chloe's social circle were embarrassed for her. People started unfollowing her. Some bridesmaids deleted their posts from the reception entirely. It wasn't just the drama. It was the way it had all been exposed. How the betrayal had unfolded publicly on her perfect day. And how the one person who could have lent her some dignity, her brother, wasn't there. And while she was trying to salvage what was left of her image, I was eating baklava on a shaded terrace, a gentle breeze lifting my linen shirt as if the wind itself was trying to pat me on the back. I didn't post often, but when I did, the timing was deliberate. A photo of me sipping wine while the comments under Chloe's wedding post turned toxic. A sunrise high captioned with a single word, freedom. Not tagged. Not directed. But unmistakably felt. The text from my mom shifted again. Less pleading, more bargaining. Your sister is struggling. Maybe you could call, even for 5 minutes? She keeps asking if you're okay. This family is hurting. Please come home. It was almost laughable. Where was all this grace when I was hurting? When I was quietly excluded from celebrations, when I watched Chloe unwrap expensive gifts while I was handed a card with no cash and an awkward smile? I didn't ignore the texts. I just didn't answer them. Instead, I extended my trip. Another week. Then another. I found a smaller island farther off the tourist map. Rented a tiny studio apartment that smelled like salt and fresh paint. Bought groceries at the morning market. Learned how to ask for coffee without sugar in broken Greek. The man at the corner bakery started calling me my friend, with a wink every morning. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I felt like I had arrived. Not just in Greece, but in a version of myself I'd never been allowed to meet. A version that didn't need to be anyone's fixer. Or favorite. or forgotten second-place prize. Just a man, sitting under a fig tree, finally breathing without apology. It came late one night, almost 2 weeks after the wedding. The screen lit up with my mother's name. I let it ring twice, just to remind myself I didn't have to answer. But this time, I did. "Daniel," she said, her voice small. "Hi, Mom." Silence stretched. I could hear her breathing, like she was struggling to find the right script. But there wasn't one this time. I'd already left the stage. "She's not doing well," she said finally. "She doesn't leave the house. Barely speaks." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and meant it, mostly. "I just wish you were here," she added. I stared at the dark window in front of me, the soft clinking of a breeze-touched chime echoing from a neighbor's balcony. "I was there," I said gently. "For years. You just didn't see me." She didn't argue. Didn't deny it. That silence? It was the first honest thing she'd said in a long time. "Are you coming home?" she asked. I smiled faintly, looking out at the stillness of the Aegean. "No," I said. "I think I'm finally home." The next morning, I walked barefoot down to the shore. No notifications. No missed calls. Just waves brushing the sand like they'd been doing long before I arrived, and would keep doing long after I left. I stood at the edge of the water, let it wash over my feet, and felt something I hadn't known I was missing: lightness. No more trying to prove my worth to people who only saw it when I was gone. No more waiting for apologies that would never come. I didn't need to burn bridges. I just needed to stop crossing them. And as the sun rose over the sea, warm and steady, I finally understood. Sometimes, the best kind of revenge is peace. And I was just getting started.